So this one is more difficult since we're working together and I'm giving you ideas, but I still don't know what you do. So I'm going to introduce you, and you're going to have to help me interview you by sort of pulling. I'm going to be your puppet, okay? All right,
Sounds
so this
good.
is John Corral. He's got a company called Voodoo.
Conversion Voodoo.
Conversion Voodoo. And what he does is,
We basically optimize websites to increase conversions and sales and grow companies.
but you do large companies.
Large campaigns.
Okay. So I have in this room an auspicious group of people who couldn't sleep last night in anticipation of the wealth of insight you're going to share. I said, I don't know what he's going to talk about. I don't know what he does, but boy, is it going to be impressive.
I think I'm going to leave now because I don't think it'll get any better than that.
And so you have to help me because I would like respectfully, and I know you've got a time problem, my goal from the heart is to give context perspective to a broad base of business owners on a couple of things relative to however you function. What's going on in the market that they need to know, what is going to produce enormously greater results than they're doing, where the mistakes are, where the market's moving, what lessons they could follow. But I don't want to breach any of your proprietary. Anything and everything you're comfortable sharing that will help make them better off will come back and it'll bless you and heaven will open and it'll be great. And I'll send you a fruit basket.
Sounds good. I like fruit.
Okay, so I'm going to let you sort of ramble because I don't know how to. You're a unique enigma for me.
Well, I'll try to unravel a little bit of the enigma. I think one of the things that I wanted to share about, we deal with very large campaigns, and I'll give you an example. One of our clients in particular, does about 15,000 leads a day.
A day.
A day. And so that's a fair number of leads. And we're talking full form leads, not just an email address or anything like that. It's for a financial services firm. And so when you're talking about dealing with 15,000 people that have filled out probably a 4-page application form, that's quite a number of people you're dealing with. And so what we look at and what our system does and what we do, we're basically marketers, right? We basically help our clients get more people to say yes, whether it's selling a product or a service or generating a lead for their services. And we do this by doing marketing tests on our pages. So a client may be sending a ton of traffic to their page, and we're making changes to the page, both in design, we're communicating different information, maybe changing headlines, copy, really communicating different things. And I'm not the smartest man on the planet, but what's really cool and what we get to do is we get to try all these different things and see how people respond. And of course, for our clients, the response is either filling out a lead form or buying a product or buying a service. And so when we're talking about doing that, and I'm sure everybody there has got a website or is doing something online. And what that means is for increasing conversions, and one of the things that I want to talk about was USP. And by the way, Jay, one of the first times I ever heard the word was reading something that you wrote, I think early 90s.
Ooh.
Somebody actually gave me a book back in 95, and it radically changed and shifted my thinking and understanding of marketing. And so in talking about unique selling proposition, when our clients are working in a space, and this is what you're going to find, oftentimes what you're going to find is if you're running, for instance, a pay-per-click campaign. Now our clients do dozens of different ways of driving traffic. But let's say, for instance, you're running a pay-per-click campaign. Today, people are so used to clicking on ads and clicking on links. When they go search for something, they are actually clicking through those things. I think like if you can imagine monkeys clicking on buttons to get a little hit of crack. They're not there very long, and they move on to the next button they push. And so they may be opening 4, 5, 6 different web pages when they do a search. And you have to learn to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack. You've got about a few seconds to gain their interest, to get their lizard brain to say, yes, I want to stay, it's worth my time to look at that. And that takes a unique selling proposition. And I think it's so critical today because there is so much distraction for people online. And I really believe this. And by the way, we deal with this whether it's a multi-billion-dollar company or just a company that's $2 or $3 million, a smaller company. We do the exact same thing, and that is thinking in terms of how can we stand out and clearly communicate and quickly communicate why they should spend some time with us, invest their time with us to be able to either buy a product, fill out a form, to interact with us. And, if you think about USP, and a lot of people go, what's that mean? And, a good example is probably FedEx, when it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight. That's a famous one that people think of. You have to have something that really resonates with people, that they will engage and basically complete whatever action you're trying to gain. And this is something that I think most people just don't think about. And regardless of the size of your business, and by the way, we've gone into, and Jay, I'm sure you've had this happen, where you go into a multi-billion-dollar company and they've got a lot of research done and all that, and you ask a simple question like, what is your USP? How are you different? And they go, well, here's 50 pages of information to tell you why we're different.
Yes.
And you just say, no, simply, clearly communicate that to me right now. And they can't. And that's something that's super powerful today. Now, I want to use an example. Would this be okay, Jay? Would this help to kind of use an example?
Great, yeah, sure, absolutely.
So let's say you had a golf, you were a golf trainer, for instance, and you train people on golf, and a friend of mine does that. You could say, I'm a golf trainer, and I charge you dollars to tell you how to do golf better. That's not a very good way of explaining it, and most people will not stick around. However, here's an old famous way of doing it. So let's say you're doing a pay-per-click campaign and say, learn golf, be an effective golfer, do better, make your friends jealous. It's taking that I'm a golf trainer and really stating it in a way that's clear, concise, shows the advantage that you have over someone else. Like we said, if you're doing pay-per-click campaign, you've got people seeing many of these iterations of people that they might be looking at are very similar, and you want to stick out. And a good example of this is an old ad that ran years ago, and it was a guy named Dalton McCreary, and he says, I teach people how to hit a golf ball as straight as they can point, or the lesson's free, and I'll even give them $25 for wasting their time. And it's a very clear communication of the value proposition. And it generates, in that one statement, it clearly communicates what he does. It clearly communicates the risk reversal.
Great.
And it also lets them know just how powerful it is. It's a very visual thing to think in terms of as straight as you can point. That's a clear communication of the benefit they'll receive if they use him as a trainer. So we're seeing that even the largest of companies do a poor job of this. And I'll give you an example of a client of ours. I can't share the name, unfortunately, but they are a financial firm. And they were a small company. They were doing about 2 to 3 million back in 2009. And going through their systems, we basically started testing new ways to clearly communicate the value proposition of why the client would benefit of using their services. And we basically just started testing headlines, how to clearly say different ways of doing it. And just by making changes within 6 months, we took them from about 2 to 3 million to 6 million. We literally doubled their business in 6 months.
And John, did they increase their expenditure or just their yield?
Well, they increased their profits by about a 1.5 times.
Okay.
Because what they did was, by giving them that advantage, they were able to go buy more traffic
Okay.
and pay a little bit more.
Okay,
But they
because-
still increased their margins as well.
Very good.
Yeah, so they basically, it gives the advantage of getting more traffic. Within about a year and a half, we were able to put them at number one on a couple of places where they were driving traffic. And they were basically the number one converting traffic source for that in their niche. And within a year and a half, they were at about 15 million.
So what's the lesson inherent in that that can be actionable and concrete to the people listening?
So I would say this is what I do. And by the way, Jay, and I think you know this, is I recently just bought a company. And it's one thing to consult for others, but when you have your own companies, you actually have to dive in and think through your
Yes.
own problems, which it becomes a little bit more difficult. But I said, let's just go through the process, the exact same thing we would with a customer, one of our clients. And that is, we have to understand the client base and why they're saying yes. So you actually call your customers and say, what is it that's triggering them to say yes? Then number two is, you actually have to clearly understand your competition. So that means, so one of the things, and I really mean, don't just run SurveyMonkey, I think that's great, something like that where you can actually survey your clients and get a lot of feedback. Actually call them. And by the way, I do this even for some of our large clients. I personally get involved in making calls and calling clients because you get a perspective that is so powerful in understanding why they're actually saying yes, what clearly sticks out in their mind, and you start hearing the same thing over and again, and you can become better at communicating that. The other thing is really driving in on the competition. If I am buying, let's go with pay-per-click ads. If I'm buying pay-per-click ads and there's 20 other competitors buying the same keywords as I am and competing directly against me, what I want to do is I want to know, what is their USP? What is it they're communicating? Because without knowing that, I won't know how to stick out against them.
Great.
And it seems so simple, but we just recently brought in a $600 million client that we've been working with. And we went through this process, and they had no idea how they were differentiating against their competition. Literally none, and they've been in business for 13 years.
So do you have to help them re-articulate it, or do you have to discover inherently by sort of canvassing the people that see it themselves, that transcend the lack of it being communicated by the client? How do you do it?
Well, I actually takes talking to the client, to actually their clients,
Yes.
their customers. Because without that, you're guessing, right? We can go through and try to analyze it. With looking at competition, what we would do is that we would, for instance, with this client, we had people that would actually not buy, but they would sign up. Like they'd sign up and create an account, but they would not buy.
Okay.
So we actually communicated with them and say, we noticed you signed up, but you didn't buy. Did you choose, well, first of all, why did you sign up? And then why didn't you buy? And if you didn't buy from us, who did you buy
And why?
from? And why, exactly.
That's fabulous. And what happened? What did you discover?
So what we discovered is that people felt like they were cheap. Not low price, but cheap.
Interesting.
And so they would just say, I got this feeling like they were almost begging for my service or me as a client, and I just didn't trust them. There was just this lack of trust. And they felt like they were a fly-by-night out of a garage company. And we would ask them, did you know they were a $600 million company? And they would say, no, I'd never heard of them before. And so therefore, I looked at the pages and I didn't see any communication that they had been in business for 13, 14, 15 years, that they had 7 million customers over those years. There was no communication of trust being conveyed to them. And so because the prices were actually good, but there was concern that it was cheap and that they would buy and then they would regret it and there would not be somebody to call and deal with. So that lack of trust, we found a lot of that over and over again in surveying the people who came to the site, signed up but didn't buy, that they did not trust them. And it was really powerful. And so what we do is we say, okay, that's an actionable item. We now need to generate trust. So what are some things that are trustworthy? And then we started going through some things about them and who they are and starting to clearly communicate that to people. And already, so $600 million company, if you just do it from a revenue point of view, we've gotten over a 15% increase by some of the changes that we've made. So if you just do the math, by the way, I'm going to get a calculator, carry the one, I mean, it's $90 million.
Yeah.
An extra $90 million they'll make this year just from diving in on that.
That's extraordinary. So
It's very powerful.
So again, but you've got three tools. One is your technology, the other is your intellectual prowess, and the other is your willingness to do it yourself. The intellectual prowess is unique, willingness to do it yourself, the kind of questions, but the ability to process, integrate, and then convert that to a superior action requires testing again, doesn't it?
Yeah, we definitely test it because we get paid based on our improvement. So
Yeah.
we actually have to prove it actually worked. But I'll give you an example with my other another company that I bought. We don't have enough transactions to test. Now it's a small company. It's $3 to $4 million, but we don't have enough transactions
So
to
what do you
actually
do?
test. So what we do is we say, let's go through that process. Let's understand where the problem areas are, and let's start making those improvements. Because I believe this, if we are moving towards improvement and taking actionable data, such as information, if we're getting complaints in certain areas, or if we're getting people saying, I think you're cheap, whatever that information might be, like with our own company, we're making changes right now in our advertising. We're making changes on our web pages, and we're not testing them in. Now, here I am, a testing company that's our implementation strategy, but when you cannot do that, you still make changes. You can make proactive changes. If I'm need to build trust, I will go through and start talking about clients and testimonials and have real pictures of real people describing their...
And you probably, this is funny, there's a company that I have a relationship with, and they're very large multivariable testing. And we've had a lot of discussions. Most everything they do is like you do. They're very definitive, and they're very uniquely situationally focused. But very frankly, there are about 80% probability that you know also. It doesn't mean that they're absolutely confirmed, but that if you do something a certain way, there's a higher than average probability it's going to have an enhancement, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. And if you follow certain guidelines, one of the things that people miss quite often is, for instance, and you talk about this quite often, is risk reversal, right? Is the idea of saying, okay, what happens if it doesn't go right? What happens if I end up saying, I wish I hadn't chosen you? That's going on in the people's, what we call the lizard brain, right?
Yes.
People are, the fear, it creates that lack of feeling of trust and feeling like I can move past this. And we have to get rid of that. And one of the ways is through a risk reversal. And that might be something that you go, well, I can't test this in, but let's see, right now we don't communicate any, and this is by the way, a friend of mine has a small company, and he was asking me for advice a couple of weeks ago. And I looked at his site, I said, I read your return policy, you have a 365-day guarantee that they're going to be satisfied or you'll give them their money back. Yet, there is nowhere on your site where you promote this 365-day guarantee, which means nobody knows it.
Yes.
Nobody reads the refund policies. So we said, how about just put it on your site and put your name to it and sign it and say,
Great.
I am so confident that I am willing to give this. And one thing that somebody taught me before, and you're one of my mentors, is all these things that come in and I just absorbed in my brain. But one of them was, you've got to do something, and this is about the USP, the way I think about it, is you've got to be willing to do something that your competition can't or is unwilling to do. And that really gets you to think a shift in the paradigm in terms of, I'm just not trying to be a little bit better than them, I'm trying to stick out like completely differently.
Great.
So that's a way to think about it.
That's great. That is wonderful. I want to respect, I like your sign too. I can't see it all. Move so I can see the whole sign.
Oh,
We can only see it. I like that. I like that. That's very cool. Very cool. I don't want to overstay our visit, but as we say goodbye and the sun sets in the east or the west, and you go on and get to enjoy the rest of your day without me hanging you up, what's the one remaining sort of haunting insight that you want everyone to wake up every morning and go to sleep every night thinking about?
loving their clients. You know, whatever business you're in, love your people. Don't love the money will come, but love the people that are coming to your business. And when you're passionate and you can't stop thinking about it, you will think of every possible way to get them taken care of. And guess what? It will start flowing. I really believe that.
You're very, very compelling communicator. You should do this professionally, John.
I think I'll just come and watch you.
That's good. Thank you from my heart. I'm sorry I was late.
Oh, no problem whatsoever, Jay. Thank you.
It's a great honor. Bye-bye.
For me, so.
Thank you. That was interesting. I mean, one of the things that's very powerful, and I learned this from real masters, is, we've got a slide on it, and you might have seen it, the force multiplier effect. It's a militaristic view, but you're going to you're waging war against somebody, you're going to attack the enemy from as many impact and vantage points as you can, and you really don't care which one does the final salvo. You want to win the war and save your country and remain independent and democratic and whatever. But you might do it by land, by sea, both, surface to air. And I'm trying to impact you with the same message from so damn many vantage points that they can't be denied by you. I already know it. I don't know what he knows or what Teddy knows or Eric knows or Carlos knows or some of the other people or his son knows. But I know that there's so much duplication because it's all flowing from the font of the same foundational beliefs, because human nature is immutable. Whatever you believe, if you're highly religious and you believe we were here, you know, Adam and Eve, or you're Darwinian, and I'm not taking either sides, and we crawled out of the murky deep until Armageddon or nuclear holocaust or whatever is going to happen. Human nature is human nature is human nature. It's faster, it's quicker, but we want to be important, we want to be protected, we want to make the right decisions. It's pretty interesting, really, isn't it? Here's what I'd like to do. Got a lot more ground to cover. I'd like to ask you, because I'm not probably going to eat, to take a quick hour and come back. Try to have a lunch with people you aren't familiar with. Sure, yes, sir. Is this a question? We need a mic? Okay, could I get a mic? Oh, thank you. Carlos just became the mic runner.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
We speak about conversions, how to increase conversions, and I want to share one simple tip that double our conversion.
Okay.
It's easy, and we just double the size of button order right now, and our conversions double.
Seriously?
We sell a few thousands of books just
That's
by these
amazing.
tips.
Is that cool? There's a story about, again, there's two interesting stories. That's fabulous. Thank you. There's two stories that are so simplistic. They massively increased the consumption of shampoo when they put on the bottle, rinse and repeat. Seriously, which is wild, and probably was better for the cleanliness of the hair. And I'm trying to remember what the seasoning was. Well, baking soda, they said, keep it in the refrigerator. And they have some phraseology where you have to look at it all the time and remember it. And then there was, because it used to be put away in the closet. And another one was I can't remember, it was not salt, but something that they just doubled the number of holes in the usage. And again, you got to be very ethical in everything you do. But if your premise is that utilization is a benefit to the client, helping them get the best utilization is a service. It's very interesting, and we'll explore this when you come back. So let me give you a context of what I'm probably going to do, because you don't necessarily need to know or want to know, but I'm going to share with you how I think, because I always have, this is me, not on steroids, this is me evolving new ground for you and myself, but also trying to make sure I integrate foundations that will keep you grounded. So new ground and grounded. So when we come back, here's what we're probably going to do, and I might change my mind. So if I tell you what I'm thinking and I change it, don't get mad. I'm just thinking out loud. We're probably going to have Carlos do some slides, but quickly, because I want to go through most quickly and quicker of those points, just so you have some concrete references. I want to go through a short but a powerful introduction to preeminence, mavenism, trust building, and a couple of other soft things. I want to get you to do some interesting new things in your homework. So we'll probably go, well, and I've got, for those of you that committed early, there's this little party tonight, and I'm not going home till the party's over, so it's like an hour and a half. So I'll probably go till about 6:30, so eat a hearty lunch, but we'll probably go hard at it when you come back. As I said, I'm going to have, Carlos has got some slides I want him to do, but it'll probably be fast because I want to get back and get through all of the those 28 points, just so we have some concreteness and you can see all the different ways to do this. Is this starting to come alive for you, I hope? Yeah, again, it evolves, and anything new. When you volunteer knowingly or otherwise to be a guinea pig, it's a fascinating experience, isn't it? Because we're in the laboratory of possibilities, and it's like the butterfly effect. One dynamic changes and everything else changes with it. But I'm reasonably happy. I just want to get those 28 points solidly at least introduced to you. And so have very stimulating discussion, and be back at 2:30. Thank you.